Alright, in this video we are talking about the parathyroid glands. So the parathyroid glands are going to be located on the posterior portion of the thyroid. They're separated by very, very thick connective tissue, and these are different from the actual thyroid gland tissue itself. Most people are going to have 4 of these, but some people do have more found in other tissues of the neck or chest. That's not unusual, but most people are going to have just those 4. So, parathyroid gland is going to contain something called chief cells. These are actually epithelial cells that are going to secrete parathyroid hormone, or PTH. This is the major hormone involved in regulating blood calcium levels. This is why in our last video with the thyroid gland, talking about calcitonin and not really fully understanding its role, and that it doesn't entirely control blood calcium levels all that much, and we're still investigating the role of that particular hormone. Well, parathyroid hormone is going to be the main regulator of blood calcium levels, but it is not just going to decrease and pull it out of the bloodstream, but it's going to increase or decrease as needed. All right, and so if blood calcium levels drop, then we're going to release that parathyroid hormone from those chief cells of the parathyroid gland. Those are going to act on 3 different areas of the body. So first, it's going to act on bone. So we're going to inhibit those osteoblasts. So we're going to stop building bone. Building bone takes calcium, and if we have too low blood calcium, then we do not want to be pulling that out of the bloodstream to build bone. It is going to stimulate osteoclasts to increase function. And they're going to start breaking down that bone to release more of that calcium into the bloodstream. PTH is also going to act on the kidneys. It's going to cause the kidneys to recover calcium from the urine, so calcium can get filtered out and then actually get reabsorbed. We'll talk a lot more about how the kidneys function later on in the semester. We're going to pull those calcium ions out of the filtered waste product, and also stimulate them to release calcitrol. So we're having a couple different actions there, but we are trying to save as many of those calcium ions as we possibly can, because we want that blood calcium level to increase again. And then the third area that it's going to be acting on is the intestines. So it's going to stimulate the intestines to absorb a lot of calcium from whatever food we're digesting. So it's going to be trying to pull calcium out of anything it possibly can in the intestines to help increase those blood calcium levels. So collectively, these should all help increase those blood calcium levels seen here. And then that is going to stimulate the release of that calcitonin that is going to come out of the thyroid gland to help regulate those increased calcium levels and try to get some of that calcium back into our bone tissue and start rebuilding that bone. So obviously, if there are issues with the parathyroid gland, this can cause a lot of issues in the body with this calcium regulation, specifically with our bones. So there are conditions, hyperparathyroidism and hypoparathyroidism, so too much or too little of that production of PTH can cause some issues. So if we have hyperparathyroidism, we are overproducing that PTH, which is going to result in way too much calcium being pulled out of the bones. And so this can really dramatically decrease bone density, which can cause fractures to happen super easily. It can cause bone deformities and stuff like that. So this is really, really dangerous. We want our bones in good condition, obviously. And so we are going to destroy bone to increase that calcium level. Done in moderation, this is not an issue. Calcium storage is one function of our bones, but if we're pulling too much calcium out of that bone tissue, it's going to alter the stability of that bone tissue. And then as those blood calcium levels rise, then cell membranes are going to get more permeable to sodium, which changes how the nervous system is able to respond to different signals. It's actually going to reduce its responsibility, which is obviously going to be very dangerous in other ways. And calcium deposits from all of that excess calcium can collect in other body tissues and organs, which can impair their function really dramatically. On the flip side, hypoparathyroidism is going to be that deficiency of PTH. This can happen following injury or surgery to the thyroid gland if those parathyroid hormones are damaged. Low blood calcium levels are going to increase membrane permeability to sodium. This can cause a lot of muscle twitching and cramping and spasms or even convulsions because, again, that calcium is so incredibly important for our muscles to function properly. Severe enough deficits in this can actually cause complete paralysis of certain muscles and can actually be fatal if the muscles are involved in breathing. So either of these can be incredibly dangerous because of how important calcium is on regulating our nervous system and bones and muscles. And we will continue in the next video talking about the adrenal glands.